Hello people, just as I begin, as I do every video, I'd like to say that I believe and have summarized previously on this channel a concept called the free will, which basically states that people are individuals and what works for one person might not work for everyone, that we are created, or we are in a way that only certain things work for certain people, especially with concepts like this that include a lot of metaphysical stuff and a lot of vagueness and abstract thought. This video has been quite a bit of work, and when I say quite a bit of work, I mean that I have thought through this and thought through it and thought through it and really worked through it to understand a lot of the concepts I'm going to talk about. I have talked before in, I think, a video called The Astrology of Lockdown and anything on the Gate 60. There was another one on the Gate 60. And there was one, importantly, on tarot and the human design. I have talked about these concepts in general. To summarize what I want to say in this video, as you may know, Pluto has been in the Gate 60, and it's been in the Gate 60 for a lot of lockdown. About 6 months into lockdown, Pluto moved into the Gate 60, or a bit longer. It's been there for a long time, and all this economic problems we're having, I'm going to refer to that. All this kind of drudgery that we're experiencing at the moment, Gate 60 is very much about drudgery, I think the limitation, is all astrologically shown by Pluto in the Gate 60. It's going to move on soon, and so this has some relevance in forecasting. And I want to say quickly that I follow vaguely some QAnon types of accounts. So these are people that believe that lots is happening behind the scenes and that we are going to shift into a sort of new society, and a lot of things are going to become very positive very soon. And a lot of these people are quite annoyed at having to kind of wait as we are at the moment. I do actually subscribe to that paradigm. Astrologically, at least, it does to me make complete sense that while Pluto is in the Gate 60, nothing would change. Gate 60 is at the very end of the human design hexagrams. It's the end of the cycle. Gate 41, which is its next cycle, is when a new one starts, and there is meaning to that. There's a story to that. This is archetypal. And I think that when we get to the end of the archetypal journey in human design, we really have to sit there and exist in all the manifestation of what's previously got on. We have to sit in the limitation and really fully realize the limitation that we're in, and to try and appreciate it. I think one positive way of looking at Gate 60 is the Desiderata, if you've heard of it. It speaks very much of the fact that life is kind of drudgery, but to accept that and to be appreciative. And I want to explain some of the positive things that can come from this situation. So from Pluto being in the Gate 60 and what's coming from it. And I'm going to explain in a little bit of depth, I suppose, how it has potentially affected my chart and how that works like archetypally within the chart and all that kind of stuff. There is a lot here that is mysterious, unsaid. To that part of the beginning where I talk about law of free will, is that life is such a mystery. It's very difficult for us to grip a lot of these things, or to ever really know. But there is a lot going on your screen now. This is a very basic explanation of this channel. Start with Gate 60, goes to Gate 3, and then goes into the wider world. I will explain each of these points. But you might not have the Gate 60 in your chart. You might only have the Gate 3. You might have the Gate 60 but not the Gate 3. You might have neither. Someone in your experience might have one or the other. The transit might highlight one or the other. There is a lot going on here, and when I do explain little bits of how I feel my process might have been highlighted and given a bit of light with these transits and these events, I wish to say, and this is relevant, very much relevant to that wider world section at the last bit there, that it is also unbelievably mysterious and unbelievably large, the wider world, that it's never going to be anything more than a little crack of light, a little bit of understanding. It probably won't actually change that much. It will be an insight into my own psychology. Whether I'll even be able to change that, or whether me knowing it actually changes anything. Like, it could be that I'm just narrating a process that is happening. And that's it. And something that's very relevant to that is when I talk about the gate 60, I am talking about Pluto in the gate 60 here. When I talk about gate 3, I'm talking about gate 3 in my own chart. For that reason, my perception is limited to those things. When I talk about gate 60, it's very simple, very functional. When I talk about gate 3, there's a lot more of a story in gate 3 for me, and that's because I've experienced it in my own chart. For someone else, the gate 60 might be the story, and the gate 3 might be the function, right? Because they may have the gate 60 in their chart, then they may be getting the gate 3 from somewhere else entirely. So here we are, the basic image here, gate 60, gate 3, and then the wider world. Gate 60 is limitation. As I said, we have many limitations. There are many different ways that gate 60, gate 3, and then the wider world all manifest, or each separate. So I talked in a previous video about how the gate 60 for me, and going through to the gate 3, related to medical problems I had, but those aren't going to be mentioned here. There is a lot that I have thought about and understood about this area that is not going to be included in this video. I'm going to go for the only specific things. But what gate 60 is its limitation, the idea there are many limitations, the fact that we don't have enough real social contact, that's a limitation we experience at the moment. It's quite clear to me that we're really designed to be far more social than we are, even for the basic points of, it shows in the human design. A basic limitation is that we do just experience the results of our actions. Another one is that, guys might feel in society at the moment that the limitations are so crushing they want to just check out and play video games. Another one might be women placed under loads and loads of stress, developing borderline symptoms, and then getting, say, too old to have kids, right? So these are limitations. The gate 3 is in the natural human design chart. I think we're living under quite a lot of dysfunction at the moment, so that might be disproportionate. But in the natural human design chart, the mutation is taking the limitation and kind of getting something good out of it. So prohibition comes along and you make an amazing new drink. You put your ingredients together and you make an amazing new drink. The limitation still exists. It doesn't change. It hasn't been changed at all, but you have mutated it. You have mutated in a way, a positive way, hopefully. Then that mutation is carried out into the wider world. The wider world here is very, very complex. It's a mystery. There are things in this such as, say for instance, there are human beings that come down from higher spiritual places that have low status. So that's one of the facts that may just be part of the wider world. It could be anything really, couldn't it? But I'm going to come to that specific example actually. When the channel produces something in the real world, then it goes into the wider world and it's obviously interacting with other things. The first thing I'm going to talk about, I have the gate 3 and not the gate 60. Now, who would think that limitation would be useful? But someone with the gate 3 does actually need the limitation. They need some sort of substance to mutate. Also, I'm going to mention a minor point here. Pluto has gone into the gate 60, and when we go into this later, it has highlighted patterns that were already there, right? The thing is everything in the human design chart is still there. The thing that happens is when something goes on there, when the sun goes on there or Venus or whatever, it highlights the fact that there's something there, but it doesn't create anything. So the way this has kind of worked for me is that from my own chart, I only have the gate 3 and not the gate 60. So for a lot of my life, I have had that mutation, that part of my personality that I'm going to go into. And the limitation has been there, but I haven't been able to perceive it, right? This is how I think it always works. I talked about my own life experiences in a video shortly ago called Noticing Patterns that revealed more what you might call vulnerability than was actually comfortable for me. But I did it based on intuition, and it seems like it was a good decision since it kind of fits in here. Now, I'm not going to go back specifically to what it was in my life that created these issues with the gate 3 that I'm going to talk about. But if you go back to that video, it will be quite obvious. Like, a lot of this happened during the first job incident, and I'll leave it at that. So when I was young, I actually looked very good. I had hair, which I don't have now, and obviously that's a bit of a wound for me, otherwise I wouldn't have immediately mentioned it. I was often told I looked very good, and I obviously did look quite good. I was very, very enthusiastic. I had that manifestor push, that manifestor power. And I had what all young people have, to be honest. A certain amount of young people, when the testosterone kicks in, or for women when the looks grow, I had an unrealistic position of my status in life. So here it is, gate 3. That's what I'm talking about. This really felt like me. And then this red thing up here, this is the world chowing down on you. Like, when you're young, you don't have the psychological skills. If you don't have the networks and the parents and the teachings, you know, things just don't go well when you're young. And so I was, by the world, I was rampantly being pushed down, in a sense. Like, I obviously had the illness that I've been through. And a lot of this is just accurate feedback that can damage a young person's ego. And I developed kind of delusional ideas of believing that I could heal the disease that I have, believing that I was, you know, better than everyone and had better ideas and all that kind of stuff. You know, classic young person stuff to a degree. It was a little bit off because it was a little bit more than normal because I do have tendencies towards schizophrenia. Of course, the energy from the world wasn't there to support this. Now, I actually did have access to women, but my medical condition stopped me really engaging with women. I got the attention, I could do the flirting, but then my medical condition would just click off at what felt like the wrong time, and, you know, that would be the end of it. And so I got very, very into conspiracy theory, and conspiracy theory backed up all of these delusions. I have done videos previously about this when I was first coming off conspiracy, but there's a lot that conspiracy does to the mind, actually. There's a lot of this kind of sickly eliteness that you get from it. I remember coming off it once and really realizing that was disappearing and, you know, having remembered what it felt like, you know. And of course, if I'm looking to heal a disease, which is pretty much impossible to heal, at least without a lot of support, but probably impossible anyway, I haven't actually heard anyone healing of it, then those sorts of conspiracy ideas, that kind of semi-megalomania, will support that belief. It will kind of keep it alive, and it won't be subject to the entropy of normal living if you are engaged with this conspiracy stuff. So the little black square I've put next to gate 3 is the kind of not self taking over here. You've got to remember also that I am an undefined sacral, and I'm going to put 2 other points here. The not self kind of creates a defined sacral illusion. This is classic HDC theory, but it's become quite obvious to me in this introspection. There are 2 things that I'm going to put off the side here. One is that people are convinced by this confidence, this belief that you can do whatever, and that is likely to attract the wrong people into my life. The other is that I feel super tough because the conspiracy stuff is going to sort everything out. You know, that QAnon idea it's all going to sort out soon, so everything will be fine. The other issue is that it can make a person less reflective of the kind of things that they're engaging in general. And this is important because those sorts of things might be something that the defined sacral would be able to engage in, but then I'm not tough enough for that. And then these added together becomes the not self. These things, you're inviting people and things into your life that are disharmonious, and then it creates more not self, and then you're on this downward spiral, right? And this is a condensed piece of not self-madness. It becomes part of the belief system, and it just takes on its own energy. So now we're going to go into, once Pluto has entered the gate 60, what effects does that have on the gate 3 in this example, and how does that reflect through to the wider world? How is this all generally a positive thing? And then what conclusions can we draw about other transits based on this? So here's my slide for the gate 60. And these are the societal problems that have been revealed since Pluto has been in the gate 60. So one of them, since lockdown in general, the red pill has grown. And the first one I put here is women not taking accountability, and a large historical basis for this. As a source for this, I want to just mention, it was only a video I watched today actually. There's a girl named Maddie Hart, who came out and blamed her father for a bunch of stuff that he claims is not true. And then he produced a defense video against this. And in one of his defense videos, he was actually sent to jail for not being able to pay child support. He'd already given over 1.8 million, but his wife had deliberately destroyed his business so he couldn't pay an additional 100,000, and the judge tried to send him to jail for 1 year. While he was in there, he said that about half the guys were in there for not being able to pay child support. This example, this story of unbelievable venom, and how it is very, very, very often repeated in the world, as comes from the narrative and research of Pearl Davis, is why I'm putting that there. This is something that we've become aware of very specifically at the moment. It's become part of the mainstream conversation. The second point here is good women being tied up in this, and that is that there are good women that are, obviously for a lot of guys, indistinguishable from the other crazies. And these women, they're tied up in this. There is a point to putting this in here, but I don't know if I'll be able to get to it. It was a point as to what happens when Pluto goes into gate 41, because the themes will follow on from this. They will be the result of these things, to me, if I'm obviously correct. But I don't think I am going to go into Pluto into the gate 41. The next one is stupid people being given too much power. This is a very, very serious one, obviously. There has been very, very dangerous medical procedures being pushed on basically the entire world. And it has been the conformists that have been taking these, and there has been a lot of death because of this. That's a very, very bad thing. And also, you get stupid people promoted to positions of power. And positions of power usually are positions of power because they require a lot of responsibility, because they require a lot of competence. And if you promote people that are stupid into those roles because of some DEI initiative, for instance, as it's called, didn't earn it, then so that's a problem. And that's a problem in society in general. It's not just like this big, even though it's been revealed politically, it's a problem for all of us. Society, stupid people being given too much power is a problem for all of us. It will keep us all down. The last one I've put here is the upper classes feeling overly entitled to working class labour. This is problems such as if it's just, like people basically overworking people, putting too much stress on the good workers without rewarding them, and all that kind of thing. We all know exactly what happens in workplaces, and that's why that one's there. Next is the gate 3. What I put here is the limitation understood that without being able to satisfy my need for mutation, improvement through direct action, I will have to resort to trying to satisfy that need through such things as the metaphysical tools I talk about, reading and reflecting on science fiction, and perhaps things like researching Nikola Tesla. Now, the point to this is what I described before, the delusional way of experiencing gate 3 was a way of taking that need for mutation, taking that need for change, and trying to actively push it out into the world and getting a lot of resistance back. Without Pluto making it unbelievably clear that that is absolutely impossible, as talked about in the last slide, That Pluto in gate 60 stuff tends to have gone over to my gate 3, and it has provided a solution that's more realistic, right? Because there's a real limitation there, a real limitation that's understood. The gate 3 can't grow out into delusion. And if you think about it, all the tools that I mentioned there, things like Law of One, Human Design, Dream Interpretation, Science Fiction, and research, within the limitation, are far, far, far more positive to what goes next, the wider world. You know, that's a very, very good thing. That level of delusion that I had before is not a positive thing. So this transit has been extremely positive for that, extremely positive for that positive change. Had I stayed like I was before with that level of delusion, that would not be good. This slide now that talks about the wider world. So the wide world is a highly complex place. The extreme complexity means that it is difficult to judge people's positions and to contemplate, understand the extreme complexity of the negative machinery and the effects as it exists or is changed, removed from society. Yeah, as is. I can't really, I've obviously done the thinking of that, but I can't actually explain it now that I've done that. Another of the very many dangers is that there are people in the world that cannot compete with the extensive spiritual gifts of others here, and they may grow jealous enough as to be dangerous. Now that comes back to the point that I brought in very, very early on when I talked about the wider world. And if you think about it, the gate 3 and those positive things are definitely going to help someone deal with these aspects of the wider world. And so that first point, basically saying things are mysterious, if you're engaging in things like that solitude and that introspection, which is making you less judgmental and is concealing your inner self a lot more, then that's very, very positive. And it's coming from a positive place, not a negative place. I found when I had that previous thing where I was too outgoing, where I was too delusional, like I said before, a big, big, big problem, and a big problem that is relevant to my entire previous life story thing and noticing patterns that I said, is that I expressed myself too much. I expressed everything that I thought was positive about the world too much, trying to get people's attention or agreement or something like that, and people hated me for that. They were jealous and they moved against me. And so this gate 3 expression of more introspection, but you know, hopefully positive, it is about charm and stuff as well, is a hugely positive characteristic. And so when I talked about the gate 60, what do you think is going to be the result of all that stuff that I said? You know, the crazy women, the good women that are obviously being mashed up in all of it. You know, the people that are overly exploitative of the populace. Like, I don't know how these things are going to manifest once Pluto goes into the gate 41, but the logical progression of some of these things is not good, right? But there's one more overarching point that I'm trying to make with this. What I've described here is something that is basically, I would say, probably, almost definitely, completely impossible for someone outside of my life to have guessed. There is no way someone could have guessed a process like this. At least I don't think there is. This has taken me a lot of introspection, and I have all the data that anyone could possibly want, right? Because I have 24, as everybody does with their own life, I have 24/7 material of my own life. And the outward expression of the gate 60, especially even that I've summarized, doesn't seem as though it could be positive in any way. And that's the same thing that's going to happen when Pluto goes into the gate 41. Pluto into the gate 41 may be some sort of, may look bad, right? But on the deeper level, something like this might be going on, and we can't ever really know. You know, someone that has the gate 30 hanging might go through a similar process to this, or someone else with the gate 41 or with the whole channel. They're going to be going through things. Like I say, we just can't really know. But even if it looks bad, it might not be bad, because we can't say that even. And that's what I want to say. Thank you for listening.